Well, for more on digital models and the role of technology in fashion, I'm joined by Dean Crutchfield from New York. Dean is the CEO of brand marketing company Crutchfield and Partners. Welcome back.
Nice to be here, Rachelle.
So when did this idea of CGI models first come onto the scene, and what was the original intention?
Well, I think the original intention was to stand out and do something different. You know, we're looking at an industry of fashion, luxury fashion industry that's worth about $2.4 trillion. That's about 2% of the world's economy, and it's well known for its lust for innovation and avant-garde ideas. So this is one of those. It's an avant-garde idea. It's been around a few years now. But one of the things we're seeing with CGI models right now is it's breaking out of social media. To your point, it's hitting the catwalk. It's going mainstream. So this is a really quite dynamic change that we're seeing in terms of a shift. So it's really interesting times right now.
So what are some examples of how these computer-generated people are really building their lives now, and how lucrative is this?
Well, you know, we're talking some of these CGI models like Lil Miquela, or you mentioned Shudu. There's a new one now by the same guy who created Shudu, who's based in London, that's created Gabriella. She's a plus-size model. Basically, you know, they're building up huge followings. I mean, Shudu, Lil Miquela, she's got over 1 million Instagram followers. In fact, bigger followers on Instagram than actually some of the top models in the world. So they really are gaining in a lot of popularity. But I think one of the interesting things we have to be mindful of here is when Shudu first launched, for the first 10, 11 months, no one actually knew she was a CGI model. So one has to be careful how you're pitching this. Are you looking to dupe customers into thinking this is a real live model, or is it a strategic intent that you're doing something different based on digital technology? So I think it's a question of how you play that message and how you project the way that you're building that brand using CGI models.
So then in terms of sort of regulations, how transparent do brands or creators have to be legally in informing people that these are in fact computer-generated accounts that they're interacting with?
There is no rule or regulation on that, as it's not a drug or a clinically controlled substance or procedure. Then there's really no control. I think it's about integrity. There's two real determinants of luxury fashion brands, and I mean the more middle to high-end luxury fashion brands, and that is two things. That's detail, which we know you find in those luxury high fashion items, but also the other important factor is authenticity, and that's what makes their brand stand out. You have to maintain that authenticity. So I think the most important thing here is this a marketing gimmick, or is it something that sits well with the brand strategy you have for this particular product? And that's a decision the manufacturers and the marketeers have to make, but they have to be careful how they play it.
So you mentioned some of the cons or the things that some of these brands should be wary of, but what's the biggest appeal for brands in using or partnering with these CGI models versus human models?
Well, you get an opportunity to explore creativity in a way that you've never really been able to do before. I mean, we've had digital clothing. This is not hardly anything so truly unique, but it does allow us to explore creativity in a new way. This is luxury, this is fashion, this is lots of creativity. Huge billions of dollars are spent on advertising and marketing and image building. So other ways that we can reach our customers in a targeted way, you know, stands us out from the clutter. So basically, is it strategic? Yes. Is it going to impact my target audience in a way that's appealing is the key question. So that's where brands have to make their minds up. Is this something my customer's going to like, or is this something that's going to alienate my customer? It's a big question. It's a brand question.
Now, unlike human supermodels, the creators of these CGI models don't get these same huge paychecks. How do you see this ongoing trend affecting pay, not just for the creators, but a lot of these real-life models?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a sad story in many ways, and there's thousands and thousands of people who have whose jobs are based in modeling, and yet, you know, the nature of commissions, the 20% the agencies charge both the client and the model, often having to to kind of fork out for their own expenses, their meals, their transportation, their hotels. It's a really tough game. So I think one of the things that you bring by bringing or using a CGI model is that you do bring efficiency in terms of the process of using or not using a model and their agencies and the negotiations and the fees and the costs. You basically control that a lot more, but also you get to control your creative product a lot more because you can own it a lot better than you can, say, through an agency and the models that you've used. And that's one of the things that you get is that endurance, that tenure, that longevity that you might be able to use in a more controlled way than you can with a live model.
And just quickly, we have about 20 seconds. How surprised should we really be about this progression? We already see the blurring of lines with reality from filters and other image-altering technology already being used on Instagram and by magazines. Should we really be shocked at this point?
No, we shouldn't be shocked. VR and AI is taking over the planet. It's across every industry. Everyone's pushing into it as far as they can. And fashion and luxury are right at the cutting edge. They've always been at the cutting edge. That's why they're so successful at what they do in building their brand. So any new way to get their brand to market, to appeal to their target audience is a powerful way to go. And if it's a CGI model, go for it.
All right, thanks as always. Dean Crutchfield there, CEO of Crutchfield and Partners.